One bag meets the hopper, and within seconds, routine handling sets off sudden chaos inside the mixer. Inside a processing plant, workers feed sack after sack into an open hopper, the chute leading straight into a vertical mixing drum. The routine looks ordinary: heave, empty, shake. Powder drifts in the air, clings to clothes, and coats the floor. The noise of machinery drowns the room, masking the danger only inches away. As another sack is lifted, it snags on the hopper's edge. In an instant, the load shifts off balance, and the chute draws it in with powerful force. Dust bursts upward, workers stumble back, and what looked like routine feeding suddenly exposes the unguarded pull of the mixer. Never feed a hopper or mixer directly by hand. Unguarded in-feed zones are killers, designed to pull in anything they touch. Workers must use safe feeding platforms, guards, and mechanical aids. One slip near an open mixer doesn't mean an injury, it means no chance at all. Inside a textile mill, the machines roared until one erupted in a sudden storm of steam. Rows of dying vessels rumbled as heat and mist filled the air. Workers pushed carts across the slick floor, moving soaked fabric from one machine to the next. Machine 3 discharged its steaming load into a bin, and routine tasks pressed forward under the constant haze of pressure. Inside the chamber, pressure built past its limit, and the relief system failed to respond. In an instant, the vessel vented with explosive force, filling the hall with a dense white cloud. Visibility vanished as steam surged outward, and routine work dissolved into chaos. Pressurized vessels must never be pushed beyond their rated limits. Every chamber requires functional relief valves, routine inspections, and strict maintenance. When safety systems fail or are bypassed, pressure becomes unstoppable, and even a routine cycle can turn deadly in seconds. On a high-rise site, a crane shifts and the entire build comes to a halt. Workers are stationed around a 23rd floor building project, the crane towering above as it handles lifts with steady rhythm. Nearby, the city carries on, with pedestrians and residents moving as usual. From the outside, the operation looks routine with no sign of the risk overhead. The crane shifts off balance, its frame beginning to lean. A tremor ripples through the site as the structure wavers, forcing work to stop immediately. In moments, the instability is clear to everyone nearby, a stark reminder of how fragile crane balance can be once lost. Never ever overlook crane stability. Once balance is lost, even the strongest structure cannot recover. On a cramped loading bay, a pane of glass tips, turning routine work into sudden danger. Two workers unload tall glass sheets from a truck in a narrow passage. With no suction lifters or restraints, the panels rest loosely on edge. Bare hands and hurried movements replace protective gear and safe handling tools. One pane shifts suddenly, tilting against the stack. The weight tips forward, and in an instant, glass panels topple and shatter across the confined alley. The sound of breaking glass echoes sharply as the fragments scatter, filling the narrow passage with chaos. What looked like a routine unload collapses into a dangerous mess of falling panels. Never ever handle or unload large glass panels without securing systems, mechanical aids, and protective gear, because glass under stress can transform into a lethal hazard. In a steel plant, a ladle of molten metal tips, and chaos erupts in seconds. It was late shift at the foundry. Overhead, cranes moved ladles glowing white-hot at over 1,000 degrees. Below, workers and machines prepared molds, their movements routine against the steady hum of the plant. One ladle was suspended for final adjustments, but in this environment, even a moment of imbalance can turn dangerous. As the crane held the load, the ladle tilted off balance. The massive container twisted on its hook, and molten metal surged over the rim. In an instant, the shop filled with a blinding flash as sparks and heat scattered across the floor. The steady rhythm of work collapsed into confusion, proving how quickly imbalance can unleash danger. Never ever move molten metal without secure rigging and clear exclusion zones. One slip of a ladle can unleash energy no worker can withstand. In a workshop full of sparks and steel, one grinder met the wrong drum, and in seconds, it erupted. The workshop floor was crowded with tools, cylinders, and equipment. In the center, a blue steel drum had been rolled into place. A worker lowered his grinder onto its surface, sparks flying. From the outside, The drum looked ordinary, just another container waiting to be cut open. But inside, invisible fumes lingered, unseen and untested. As the grinder bit into the steel, the heat met trapped vapors. In an instant, the drum ignited. A flash of flame burst outward, filling the space with heat and light. The heavy barrel jolted as smoke spread across the workshop, transforming what seemed like routine, cutting into a sudden and dangerous emergency. Never ever weld, grind, or cut into a closed drum unless it has been properly cleaned and tested. Even when they appear empty, drums can trap vapors that ignite the moment sparks touch them. On a busy loading yard, one truck moves forward, and suddenly, the entire site turns into chaos. It's early morning at a timber yard. Workers are unloading long logs from a flatbed truck. The yard is cramped, barely enough room for one truck to maneuver. The white flatbed truck is loaded heavy, and men are even standing on it, shifting logs into position. But in this tight, crowded space, one movement changes everything. The white truck begins to creep forward on its own. One worker rushes in front, pressing his hands against the grill in a frantic attempt to stop it. But the loaded vehicle doesn't slow. It surges ahead, pushing dangerously close to the wall as others shout warnings. In an instant, the yard erupts in chaos as the runaway truck barrels forward, its weight unstoppable once in motion. Never rely on human strength against a moving vehicle. In loading zones, trucks must always be secured, brakes engaged, wheels chocked, and cabs locked. A rolling truck can't be stopped by hands, only by prevention. On a quiet residential street, a towering utility ladder rests dangerously on power lines, its balance on the edge of collapse. A crew positions a tall extension ladder on overhead power lines, cars parked close on either side. With no stabilizers or secured footing, the structure rests only on their grip. The narrow street and tangled cables create an unforgiving backdrop where one slip could trigger disaster. The ladder suddenly tilts forward, its weight slipping beyond the worker's control. In seconds, the tall frame tips into the street, pulling against overhead lines and crashing down across parked cars. The sharp clang of metal on pavement echoes through the block as control vanishes, leaving the crew scrambling in confusion. Never, ever attempt to raise or maneuver a heavy ladder near power lines without mechanical assistance, stabilization devices, and a clear exclusion zone. At a busy loading dock, one missed break turns routine unloading into sudden chaos. A truck is backed up to the dock, doors open, and liftgate lowered. A worker pushes a pallet jack forward, shifting the load deeper inside. Everything appears steady, but the brakes were never engaged, leaving the vehicle unsecured. As unloading continues, the unsecured truck shifts unexpectedly at the dock. The alignment moves out of place, creating sudden instability and halting the routine task. What seemed steady seconds before now exposes a preventable hazard. Never, ever unload a truck without setting the brakes. An unsecured vehicle can move at any moment, transforming a routine task into a dangerous situation. In heavy rolling, one misroll is all it takes to break the rhythm of the line. On the mill floor, heated steel is guided into rollers designed to shape and stretch it. Operators focus on speed and precision because the rolling line runs under immense force and must stay perfectly aligned. But when a bar slips from its guide or enters off-center, the entire flow of the process begins to shift. The misroll disrupts the line, throwing the rollers out of balance. The steel veers off its guided path, shifting unpredictably through the system. What should have been a smooth flow is now interrupted, forcing the mill to halt and recover. Never, ever overlook alignment in a rolling mill. Even a small misfeed under heavy force can transform controlled rolling into an unpredictable hazard. Precision is protection. Guides, monitoring, and strict alignment checks are not optional. They are what keep the rolling line safe and steady. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.